The general way that I kind of started reading is I like to explain the process. I work as a clairvoyant, so I basically just see information. It's my job to basically take what I see, try to interpret it in a way that's going to make sense, and deliver it to you in a way that's going to be as accurate as possible. I always kind of view myself as like a bit of an instrument. Some people can play the piano fluently, others are a hot mess. But I do feel like I want to connect to this woman that's coming through. And I might even actually hold on to an object if that's okay.
I have a pair of jeans.
Perfect, I love it, awesome. We'll see what comes through. Before I get into the specifics of what I'm going to tell you, I just want to deliver some of the messages that are coming through immediately.
Okay.
This woman that comes through is so immensely proud of you, and before I even get into the specifics and the details, she was with you all day, and she wants you to know how much she loves you and how amazingly fine and at peace she is.
Okay, great.
But she's wanting you to know first and foremostly that she has such a special connection to you, and the love that she has for you is immense.
Okay.
Immense, 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 and I just love it. So immediately when she's coming through, she feels so sweet in the way this comes across. From her perspective, she feels like her passing was just like yesterday, even from her perspective. So she's still kind of processing her passing, but seems to be perfectly fine in the way this comes across.
Good.
So we'll get additional details and whatnot,
Sure.
but I just want you to know first and foremostly, she's
thank
perfectly
you.
fine. Let's see where we're going. We're
Okay.
gonna kind of go all over the place.
Let's do it.
I like it. Immediately as I'm connecting to Mom, the feeling that comes through with this is immediately a feeling of I didn't want you to have to take on the responsibilities when it comes to my transition and the process that led me up to passing. She's talking about the timing in which she passed. She said that that was a very volatile time for you. She's saying that even outside of her passing, that was a time of crossroads for you.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to hold you back. She's like, I want her to go. I want her to live her life. I want her to go move. I want her to go, do things, live her life, start a career, do those things.
Okay.
And that's the feeling that comes across with this of like,
That's
I just
exactly
want to do
it.
that. So she's aware of all of that you've done since she's passed.
Okay.
And the amount of pride is immense. What I do want to mention is she's having me talk about when it comes to closure. She feels she has closure with you, okay? And that's one of the big things I want to let you know. She acknowledges that shortly after she passed, she tried to come through. She acknowledges very strongly that she tried to come through in a dream, and that she made that visitation. And she's like, I was able to make that connection with my little girl.
She did.
And she makes that connection very strongly. She still views you as like a little girl. It's cute.
Not surprised.
Yes. But she knows that she came and visited you shortly after. So please know that. And that was her way of just acknowledging, I'm here, I'm all right.
Okay, good.
And she's around. But she definitely comes through, just as an absolutely amazing force. She's talking about a reference to a relationship.
Okay.
She's talking about one relationship ending.
Okay.
Okay, and a relationship starting.
Okay.
And I get a reference to a relationship starting, and then she's showing me balloons, which is always an indication of celebration.
Okay.
I know this is gonna sound strange and
No,
off the wall, but
no.
good to keep in mind, she's talking about how she's glad that we left the other person, or I feel like we get rid of this other person.
Okay.
And then there's a reference to like, glad we cut that cord, keep that person out.
Okay.
Because there's this new person.
Okay.
I like this new person, and that I'm kind of getting good feelings about. In the event that this individual ever comes back, she's saying like, get away, get away,
okay.
because there will be an outreach. There will be an outreach, so just good to keep in mind.
It.
And that makes sense for the most part.
I think so.
Okay, cool. Because I would be referencing, I'm thinking romantically, but there's just this reference to
okay.
like, I want to keep this, it's like someone who's holding on.
Okay.
On. So if we see any of that behavior, just take note of it and then keep them separate.
Got it.
But there is a reference to an excitement currently for you as far as like, you're very independent, things along those lines. But she comes through and references to your love life. She also jokes about your love life, of course.
I'm not
always,
surprised.
I was like,
Not surprised.
Exactly, so she's sweet. So the woman that would consider a non-biological mother figure as she comes through immediately is referencing, for me, she's having me talk about the fact, going back to the fact that I was not conscious when I passed. She does acknowledge with this, in the way that this comes across, I feel like when I go, I don't want people to actually be there, for me when I pass. There's this acknowledgement of like, and then I'm feeling this feeling of like, I don't want them near me. It's like, I know it sounds strange, for kicking people out of the room or what.
It's completely typical,
But she's like, some people come through very, very family-oriented and acknowledge, I want everyone to be around, I want everyone to say goodbye to me, I want everyone to hold my hand. This woman is not that way. She's like, I'm fine going on my own, I don't need everybody around, I just want to go. I do have to ask, as this is coming through, there's a reference to I'm seeing the Red Cross. So for me, when I see Red Cross, it always means medical. So I have to ask about the individual who would have been involved in the medical field, would be interested in the medical field. It would probably be a female, and would most likely have a nursing affiliation, but this would be like a younger person that would either be like getting into it or would be, I'm viewing this person as being younger for some reason. And I could be wrong in that interpretation, but I'm definitely talking about medical or nurse or some affiliation with that. But
Younger than my mom?
Yes.
It's me. I'm a nurse.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. No way. Okay, cool. Well, that helps. All right, because I feel like I'm referencing to like a younger person who would be definitely younger than mom. It does come through with a very strong sense of humor. I want to emphasize that as well. Like when she comes across, she is the most overpowering energy of anybody when they come through. So it's intense, and that connection is just huge. So I do have to talk about, good to check and see if there were 6 kids on that side, or see where the 6 kids is. And most people don't have 6 members of, like, 6 siblings. So for whatever reason, for her, she's having me talk about this, well, actually, nope, she's correcting me, hold on. So it's not 6 siblings, she's just having me talk about June. She's showing me June and then balloons to me, so that she'd be referencing to a celebration or like an annual event in June that she's aware of. This would be done annually. She's referencing annual. And she's showing me a big smile. And she's around during this. That's interesting. And she wants to be known that she's aware of what's done in June. But it comes through in a way that's like really sweet and commemorative and positive and special. And for whatever reason, she's just having me say it. So that comes through. These 2 women that are coming through like consistently, and they're sweet. But they're kind of going back and forth. It's actually interesting because there is a bit of a similar situation, funny enough, to one of the first readings I did today. And it's an interesting dynamic. I'm going to relay it to you. Of the 2 women that are coming through, one is acknowledging passing away at an appropriate age, like being much older. So 70s, 80s, that's normal. There's another woman that comes through that acknowledges that though she feels she lived a good duration of life, she didn't make it quite to the 70s and the 80s. She's like, I passed around either middle age or I feel like I'm too young to go. They make it a point to acknowledge that they're both kind of coming through as a motherly type of a figure. This mom energy that comes through that acknowledges that she passed too early on immediately is having me come through and acknowledge how proud of you she is. And that she's just around you very strongly, and want a reference to that. She's coming through, and she's gonna have a lot to say and communicate, but she's like, like 100 miles an hour. And the way this comes across, you know, she feels like she lived a pretty good duration of life, but it was cut short too soon from her perspective. And when she comes through, I mean, she's fabulous. Like, she's a presence when she comes through the room. I feel like she demands the attention.
Very much so, yes.
But she's sweet, and she's able to manage to have that kind of a presence while still having a good heart and being kind. So she's, when she comes through, she references to being very like, I'm looking at my parents. There's a reference that's like, I don't want someone to take my photo without my makeup. I'm like,
oh my goodness, yes,
but
so much.
I do have to mention there is a reference to a susceptibility to feminine-based cancers within family that I would talk about. Ovarian, uterine, breast, and cervical is always what I want to talk about. There's 2. So I know it's a lot to take in, but there's one reference to an individual, female, who would have dealt with cancers of the feminine system, and she's having me talk about that one. But she's also having me talk about another female individual who either would have like a scare or like a little bit of an issue. They're 2 separate people, but she's putting more of the emphasis on the feminine cancer incident is kind of what she's calling it, and having me mention that. Does that make sense within the context of what you know?
Yes.
As mom's coming through, this I love this woman as she's popping it. She's immediately having me talk about the reference to a discussion about what was done after she passed. And she's having me acknowledge that, first and foremostly, she was not in any pain when she passed away. I want that to be known. So much so that she was not even really aware when she actually physically passed. When she transitioned, I'm not aware that I'm necessarily transitioning, which is a good thing until, you know, we've made that. So she's acknowledging, really honestly, a sense of peace and a sense of comfort that comes from this. She is choosing to kind of frame this more from a sense of humor perspective, which is coming through. She is referencing, she showed me tattoo, and then I got a reference to a joke about the tattoo, about after she passed, a discussion of either something being added, and there's a reference, but there's a joke associated with it, or like a funny, she's giving it to me from like a funny perspective. So if someone would have had that discussion about getting a tattoo after mom passes to commemorate her, she's acknowledging that, and I don't know if like other family members were like, eh, or like what it is, but it's coming through in a funny way.
Well, she never wanted any of us to get tattoos, and didn't want any of us to get a tattoo for her.
Yes.
And all 3 of us have one.
That makes sense. Because I'm like, she's having me joke about the tattoos, like, you do the exact opposite of what I want you to go do. But it comes through in a sweet sense, in a funny sense.
Okay, good.
So that's her way of acknowledging that though she might not have been, in life 100% supportive of it, on the other side she is.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for her or anything that you would want to know?
I mean, of course I have a million questions, but I mean,
Sure.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't even know.
Sure. Are there a better way to frame it, because it's a big question to ask. Is there anything that you would have needed to know from Mom before?
Well, I wanted to know if she was okay, and you
Of
answered
course.
that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And she's proud, so
Immensely. Immensely.
so that's good.
Absolutely. Because when she's coming through, the way that this comes across is that she feels like when it comes to your career and when it comes to your life, you'll kind of reach a peak in career even at a later age, which is a
Okay,
good
good,
thing.
good.
So don't feel the stress to kind of get everything
Okay, good.
going. She's
Thank you.
acknowledging, she's like, it might happen a little bit later,
Good.
but she's acknowledging the steps that are being taken. There's an immense amount of pride that comes with
Good.
that. She views you as immensely independent, is incredibly proud of that as well.
Good.
So just please know that
Good.
she's around, and she's with you every step of the way.
For the latest stories, be sure to visit eOnline and download the eOnline app. I actually had a question about the packages.
Speaking of packages, yes.
You're still cute. You're still cute.
It's a lot of makeup.
Yeah.
Is Taylor Swift giving away her awards to her squad?
This is so true.